Pranav Thakurta from Edu TV. Today with us is Mr. Famous Sharma, Mr. Chetan Sharma, who's Editor-in-Chief of India Head News. Sir, welcome. Sir, as you are a media personality, what is your advice to the students in terms of, they get a lot of rumors in terms of this medical emergency, government directives, and also their cures?
See, I think whenever you have a crisis, the first thing is to keep facts very simple. So to simplify matters, particularly when you're dealing with students who need to memorize, I'd ask them to memorize the letter P. The first part of the letter P is to protect. You need to protect yourself, you need to protect your family, you need to protect your loved ones around you. That is through sanitization, social distancing, and what have you. First thing, very important. Second thing is the word pass. You need to understand that this is a time which is temporary. This time will pass. So you need to prepare yourself accordingly that it's a situation which will be overcome eventually. So you create a scenario around yourself for a temporary situation, and then look at how life moves on from here permanently. The third P is to prepare. Do remember that because this is an interim junction, your preparations for your forthcoming exams and whatever challenges that you have in the future must continue. This is an opportunity for you to take care of the fact that you have lesser distraction, you have lesser physical needs to go out, and tire yourself. You have the opportunity to put your mind into perspective, into a greater amount of focus when you can work on it. So preparation is very important. And the third factor is to prepare. You must be prepared in a manner that at the time when the emergency situation is overcome and you get back to life as normal, you're able to use this aggregated preparation to propel yourself to a manner and in a situation where you were this emergency not been there. For example, if you're let's say you're away from school for a month, your preparation should be such concise in the assumption that you were in school for that month. How would you have been in school from there on? That's the level of propulsion that you would need. So if you remember the simple letter of P, protection, the time will pass, preparation, and propulsion, I think will be well observed.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now we have with us Mr. Sunil, who's heading the Monash University in Kuala Lumpur, near Kuala Lumpur, I think, in Malaysia. Sir, what is your, actually you had been teaching across the world, in India and abroad also, what is your advice to students, parents, teachers on the same, like we get a lot of information which is not true, people are scared, and there a lot of panic is there. What is your advice? I think you must have seen all the wars also in India, and it was a Chinese war or war with Pakistan, and a lot of blackouts were there. So what is, you must have heard of plague also. So what is your advice to the students, sir?
I think that's a very valid question that you've asked. I think it becomes very important for us to be able to understand, especially for the younger generation, to be able to decipher what information is correct and what is not correct. And nowadays, with the social media being so prevalent, there is more nonsensical and unbelievable fake news than there is real news. And so it becomes a major challenge, and to the young minds, that can be very distracting and very disturbing as well. So I think that becomes one of the major issues. And I think whenever they encounter fake news, or they feel that this is not really correct, or it's it's too difficult to believe, they have to draw the line and say, okay, this is not right. Maybe consult with your friends, consult with your family members, and then, make a decision on various different social media based news, because they can be very misleading nowadays. It's just,
correct.
It's just, and the irony of the whole situation is, most of the times, fake news sounds so realistic, the way there are companies, there are organizations that are busy trying to just make fake news look so real. So you have to be very careful. Everything that you see on WhatsApp or whatever your channels are that you're getting all this information, everything may not be true. The other thing, like Mr. Sharma said, is that at this point of time, this is a very good time, a very productive time actually for the younger generation, if they think of it that way, that it's time for them to prepare. It's time for them to spend more time at home. You're not wasting your time commuting. You're not wasting your time, walking around, going around. All that time is coming to you at home. And with internet connectivity, everything gets delivered to your home. So, and nowadays everybody has internet connectivity. So it's a very good time to actually prepare yourself, to put in more time looking at what else is available on the internet. It's not a time for stress. It's a time to spend quality time at home with your family, discuss matters through, discuss your futures. For younger generation, it's very important to do that also, to discuss your long-term plans and also to prepare for the future.
Thank you so much, sir.
Good professor was saying, because he spoke about fake news, and having been in media for long enough, I know what kind of a pain that is for us, particularly when we are disseminating news. Now, I think even in the category of fake news, one needs to understand what is the gravity of fake news. Like, well, you'll have a lot of jokes that have been spread around, which is not a bad thing at times, even though it's a serious matter at hand. Humor helps you get by this situation, collectively. What is important is when you have any news that is taking a claim to cure coronavirus, right? That's where you have to be cautious, right? Unless and until you get this information from a very verifiable source, and that source has to be not only from the country, it has to be from the globe. It's the global problem. Let's say like the WHO, I think nothing short of that should be assumed as anything that is acceptable.
Very good.
Because that is the most dangerous kind of fake news that's been spread. Everything else as to how many number of, let's say, fatalities there are, how many number of cases there are, there'll always be debates, there'll always be governments that underreport, overreport. That kind of things you can still accept at some level. But do not accept news that claims any stake to curation. I think that's the most important thing for every child, for every citizen. That, to my mind, so one needs to also try to grade the levels of fake news. Otherwise, you're going to get lost in the cauldron. There's no doubt. Let's be real. In the real world, we are in a digital world, right? The real world is actually now virtual for most of us. We've been pushed to that situation, and when we cannot close ourselves to whatever comes our way. We don't also have the power, the tools to be able to assess what is right and what is wrong, what is fake and what is real. So let's just, at least as responsible, responsive, as well as mature citizens, and try to ensure that anything to do with the curation, any news that disseminates that there is a cure for coronavirus coming from unverified sources should certainly not be forwarded. Just the way we have social distancing that we know we're right now trying to adopt, let's at least adopt this practice of not forwarding this news. It just creates panic, particularly in a society which is largely uneducated. I think we need to be responsible for that.
Okay, so there's this fear factor also, which gets propagated by fake media as well. So that also is a very important aspect that has to be, stopped whenever you think that this news is not real or it's just creating unnecessary fear. Stop it right there. Don't let it go on through the cycle of propagation, because then you're just promoting fear for no reason. There are so many ads you keep. There's so many kinds of news that I keep hearing from people. Oh, the world is coming to an end. Disaster has struck us and all kinds of things. Okay, it is a fearful situation.
I'd like to just add a caveat. We need to grade the fear factor. See, from my point of view, sir, being fearful of the situation is not a bad thing, particularly when you got to protect yourself. So an element of fear, I think, is important. Otherwise, it doesn't promote, or it doesn't, indicate or insinuate, or even, in any way, enable you to take preventive action. It's only once you have a sense of fear that you start taking this action. But yes, the panic should not set in. I completely agree with you. So even in that case, we need to even grade what do we talk about? What do we actually advocate as fear? So I don't think fear is a bad thing. It's better in these times of panic to actually err on the side of caution rather than being irresponsible. I would rather accept a fearful situation and be fearful and not necessarily spread fear, but at least spread caution about it. Even though it may be untrue, I think it should be acceptable in these extreme times, and this is an extreme time. But yes, certainly not create panic. I think that's more, and try to be more solution-led. I mean, that's my piece.
Mr. Sharma, definitely it's a very big medical emergency, but in a country like India, the parents are very much concerned about the career of their kids. For class 12, some of the exams are still postponed and we don't know till when they are postponed. So what is your advice to them? Will they be able to go ahead with the next, their university sessions, and they are just hanging in the air? What is your advice to these students who are in class, who have written their class 12th examination, which are half either it is ICSE or CBSE, both are the same problem. We asked the same question to Professor also in the last session. What is your advice to those students and parents?
Well, interesting. It's a good question you asked me. It's very relevant to me because I have my daughter who's in class 12 right now. She has 2 exams to go. And all I tell her is that, the greatest learning is the learning that you're seeing around you. I mean, never before you're witnessing right now something that is historic for the entire globe.
Oh.
Right? Absorb whatever you're taking in, the good, the bad, the ugly. There'll be no better time for you to learn than this time.
Correct.
Whatever you're learning. The course is one part of it, right? And fortunately, unfortunately, we're in a situation where the entire globe is affected. So obviously, whatever decisions are taken, by the higher powers, by people in authority across the globe, will be something that'll take into account for everybody. So nobody's isolated out here in this situation, which is the only, I think, the fortunate part of an otherwise situation where, let's say it's only your school or your institution
Right.
or your state which would be in a problem, and then the others would be living life in normal terms. So I think whatever is going to be happening will be very calibrated for everybody. But for the student's point of view, I mean, for me, since anyway, you're not going to be going in for your exams immediately, keep those books aside, absorb what is going on around you, write down whatever you feel, write down whatever your thoughts are, discuss this with your friends, whatever they are, make little anecdote, make a little diary. These are things you're going to remember in the future. These are going to be your learning lessons in the future.
Wonderful, wonderful. And thank you, Mr. Chetan. Thank you, Mr. Sunil.
Thank you.
Time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.